Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the World Football Summit podcast. Last week, during WFS Europe, Sevilla became the capital of the global football industry for 2 days. And to celebrate, this week, we wanted to bring you a special episode taken from an amazing panel out of the 50 plus that were available at the event. As you know, the business model for football clubs relies on 3 pillars: matchday, broadcasting, and commercial revenues. Today, we want to focus on this last one. As technology evolves, the partnership model between brands and football clubs needs to keep pace, as it has evolved from the brand perspective to the digital activation phase and the formation of communities in Web2, and we are eager to see the next phase now that we are entering the era of Web3. On this episode, you will not be hearing much from me. To understand this landscape, 3 fantastic experts join moderator Fabien Arneodo from eShot Labs to shed some light on where and how the space will evolve in the new era. We're speaking about Jorge de la Vega, Commercial and Marketing Director at LaLiga, Esteve Calzada, Chief Commercial Officer at City Football Group, and Erik Tuijt, Consultant for Heineken. This is a true masterclass for anybody in the industry, as it provides a perspective from top-class clubs, brands, and sports properties. Honestly, we could not think of a better lineup of speakers. Before we go, though, make sure you subscribe to our podcast and our official World Football Summit YouTube channel. We will soon be posting this and many other panels there. Finally, feel free to leave a review and drop us a line across any of our social media channels. You know where to reach us: Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. And nothing else from me. On to the panel with Jorge, Esteve, Hans, and Fabien. Enjoy.
In this next panel, we have the following speakers. Please welcome them on stage. Chief Commercial Officer at City Football Group, Esteve Calzada. We also have Consultant at Heineken International, Erik Tuijt. We have Commercial and Marketing Director at LaLiga, Jorge de la Vega, and your moderator for this session, who is the Chief Revenue Officer at eShot Labs, Fabien Arneodo. So please give them all a big round of applause. Guys, get out here on stage. Come on out. Esteve, ¿cómo estás? Bien. Sí, bien, gracias. You got here okay. You got here okay. Yeah. Under your name, where you see your name, have a seat.
Oh, there you go.
Fergus was meant to be moderating this panel, but instead we have a super sub. A super sub in Fabien. Guys, listen, I know this is going to be a hard act to follow. You just come on after El Chiringuito de Jugones with José Pérez de Rol, all that kind of stuff. But I reckon this guy is a captive audience here. So, Fabien, take it away. Thank you very much indeed.
Hi, everyone. So, as you can see, I'm not Fergus. Sorry, he's sadly sick, so I'm replacing it. First thing first, thanks to you guys, who will pass on you one by one. You will introduce yourself. Thanks to everyone. I know it's lunchtime, but you need to wait a bit more. So basically, since a few years, partnerships are diving slowly from a conventional-based model brand to an innovation and tech model. Partnerships are a matter of vision, values. They are a part of marketing and communication strategy. The first version of partnership was more brand bringing something to federation and clubs. The second version of partnership is more digital, fan engagement, how you can create a community. And the third version is now maybe Web3. This is the subject we will discuss today. What is interesting here, and this is the discussion we had together just outside of the stage, it's we can have the point of view of a federation, championship, of a brand, and of clubs on partnership. Each of you, can you give me example of what is a partnership, a sponsorship for you, in your case, in your market? Can you start, Jorge?
Well, when you're talking about the sponsorship, well, first I would say that partnerships have changed a lot.
Yeah.
So I think it is something that we shifted from sponsorship to partnership, which in English is much easier because in Spanish we didn't change. We are also using partnership in English because it was a matter of a semantic concept, but well, I think we all want to convey that it has to be much more than just getting the money from a brand and giving some assets. It has to be a wider concept. So in general, and later we can talk about the difference between the different properties, I would say that how we see partnerships today, it is something that we need to think about our brand needs, which is something that it is challenging. It is not easy because you need a different approach to the brands. You feel more comfortable about talking about you more than thinking about the brand and trying to understand the brand, especially because you work with so many different brands, different sectors, different level of experience in a sponsorship or in partnership. So it is challenging for the properties and for the different teams to feel comfortable to open this kind of conversation from the sales team and from the activation team. So I think we need to think how can we help the brands and why the brands should invest in you. And this is normally an exercise that is interesting, but it's also challenging. I think we normally, as a property, we feel more comfortable talking about ourselves, talking about how good we are, what's the kind of rights that we can offer, what's the bunch of assets that we're going to offer for the future. And well, we should go in another way. And that's something that we are trying to do. It is how we can build marketing strategies together with a brand, which obviously is not easy because they know about themselves much more than we do. But it is the interesting exercise that we are trying to do. So that's how we see partnerships from LaLiga. When you talk about different properties, obviously, it is. I would say that in a common space, we all need to do this. But the assets that you've got to do this will vary from one to another. No? So as a league, by default, you've got some assets to do that. What we have done is to try to add many assets from third parties in order to make this strategy much more powerful. So, well, we understand that the top thing that you get, it is that you do things collectively. It is a collective approach to one space like football, one territory like football in this case. Like you're not offering something that is specifically to one club or one player or whatever. It's something. It's a concept that is collective one. So then for the brands, I think we all see a league or a competition something interesting to get like a multi-target strategy, multi-territory strategy. So you try to cover like a wider space. That's mainly, and I think it's a good starting point about what's the difference for me about what's partnerships and now for a competition or a league like LaLiga.
Interesting to see that a federation have different assets and needs to have different verticals, as you said, for the clubs, the players, etc.
Yep.
And you need to serve in one way the clubs, like Esteve, for example, with the Premier League or other clubs, or brands like Ants with Heineken. So it's interesting to see the difference in between the point of view. Ants, can you give us your partnership strategy with Heineken and what is your point of view about the future of partnership?
Well, future, let me go back a little bit. Because it's interesting while I'm saying this is that personally I believe that partnerships have to be long-term. It's, you need to get to know each other. It's a marriage and it takes time before you really understand each other. So I don't believe in sponsorship or partnership of 1 or 2 years, because by the time you get it right, you have done, it takes you 3 years, because the first year you have no really knowledge, so you try. Then you do research. By the end of the second year, you have your research right, and then you already need to start negotiating. So then the CEO says, "Well, I haven't seen the good results. Let's stop this." So, and I'm personally proud of what we've done with Heineken. Champions League, Formula One, Rugby World Cup, James Bond, the Holland Heineken House activations have been there for 25 years. And the other part, so that's one thing of partnership, I think. And while say that, I think in the digital world, we will struggle to work on that. But on the second part is what, especially from a Heineken point of view, I've always said, I believe that we need to make sure that the pie grows.
Yeah.
And for example, for Champions League, we do a worldwide activation with the trophy bottles. We can put 1 billion bottles in the market that promote UEFA and the Champions League as well around the world. We take the trophy into Africa, Latin America. So we activate and build their brand as well. And I think if the partnership doesn't mutually have goals that you can build on, it's not going to last forever as well. And then the last point on partnership is that, I think that in my 15 years dealing with quite a lot of property holders, I've never had to refer back to the contract because we've always worked in the spirit of the contract. And a good example I'd like to share here in the contract that we signed with Formula One, it says you cannot use old footage. And that's the reason it's in there, because they don't want to promote old sponsors, because they want to have actual sponsors. Our first commercial was with Jackie Stewart from the 1970s, because we wanted to demonstrate who he was and to have the message, when you drive, never drink, but we needed that old footage. And so, if the spirit is one thing and the clause is something else, that you can immediately both agree, oh yeah, this is something very different, we can agree on that. And I think that's very important, that you understand the spirit of the agreement and live that.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to see the positioning of a brand as a global experience, because you are more global and you try to bring something new for federation, clubs, and even players, we have to say it. And that's really interesting. But Esteve, as a club, because you have a lot of clubs in your organization, can you explain us what is your partnership strategy today in terms of brands and also in terms of tech? I'm really, I want to have more information about tech.
How much time do we have?
You still have 26 minutes.
So, well, first of all, it's already been said that obviously there's been a huge transformation in what we used to understand and as sponsorships and now partnerships, right? And the way as right holders we like to operate, and particularly at City Football Group, we want to make our partners feel like they are an integral part of the daily activity of the club. In our case, that transformation includes the transformation of the product itself, right? So we went through a strategy in which we were still not winning on the pitch into a situation in which we have won 4 of the last 5 Premier Leagues. At that time, while we were not winning on the pitch and we were not having big social media numbers compared to other bigger clubs, our strategy was completely different. So it was because obviously our duty, let's make it very clear, is to generate revenues, right? This is what a commercial person has to do. So at that time, we were competing with the likes of Chelsea, Arsenal, Manchester United, and sometimes we had to do it on pricing, just because we were a smaller club and we had a vision. And I remember when I joined, I started to change that by winning on the pitch, growing on social media, etc. We have started to change the slides in our sales deck, because all of our slides were about growth, right? Because when you would put our absolute numbers next to the other club, we'd still look very small, right? And then we were like, no, but we are the fastest growing club, right? So thanks God, we have evolved into a situation in which, from being a challenger, we have now basically been applying a leader strategy. So that means, because we've been successful on the pitch, we've been successful commercially as well, and actually, and we'll talk about that, one of the biggest challenges that we have as rights holders is the inventory being almost sold, right? So when you work for the Champions League or for one of these big franchises, there's a moment that you have already a front of shirt sponsor, a sleeve sponsor, a training kit sponsor, LED sold. So what's next, right? And this is when we kind of open up this dialogue about digital, Web3, metaverse, content as well. What else? What is it that we can do? And this is a debate that we're having now, right? We're having it also with the Premier League, right? What other assets can we have, right? The Premier League was probably the last league which approved the sleeve sponsor, right? And all of this is extremely regulated. But as I said, For us now, we are at a time in which we come from behind, and we are very much enjoying the moment. Great product on the pitch, and also just like every other rights holder, great pressure to generate revenues.
Thank you, Esteve. I will come back to you again. I'm sorry, gents. But I will come back to Esteve again. As a former Puma employee, so I worked for Puma several years, and I know that you partner with them. I know that something really important for them is the fan experience and the fan engagement. How are you working to engage your fan through partnership? Because that's something very important now. What can be your action? How are you working? What can you propose to your fan to engage them?
Yeah, obviously we cannot forget that anything that we do, the fan needs to be the integral part and needs to be at the center, right? So with that in mind, as I said before, we try to bring opportunities to our fans, and when possible, we try to do it through our partners, right? So sometimes it's about letting them vote on what could be the best crest, for instance, or the best training, or the best kit, sorry, for us to sell. Sometimes it's about the touch points during the match day experience, right? Sitting down with your beer partner, understanding how the bars should look like in a way that the product looks great, the sales are as high as possible, and the fan is happy. And ultimately, going back to what I was saying earlier, from a content perspective, we want the fan to be able to access our content in a way in which, again, on my role in the organization, the partners are an integral part of that content in a way that if you are, for instance, showing in your social media a clip from the locker room, that players are in the locker room. So we as marketeers have to make sure that there is a Midea washing machine right in there where the players have left the dirty kits, right? And make sure that the brands are genuinely integrated, right? Because this is what the brands want.
Thank you. What I'm hearing is the fan experience you are creating is really based on emotion. You bring them a lot of emotion, a lot of hot content. We were discussing that before. One of my questions is, as a brand, hence, Heineken, you need to renew in terms of partnership, because before it was, I will be a bit rude, but just putting your name into a shirt. Now it changed, because it depends for which target, which sport, which market, which fan base, what kind of engagement. Can you tell us a bit more about how you see the future for that?
Because life has changed, I think, in the last years, of course, because, again, if you looked at the past, just put your brand out there for brand awareness, that was quite good. Today, especially in the Western world, in research, you really see, well, if you're big, so what? So what do you do about it? So what we do for big events, we have a digital agency that we prepare upfront what are the things that could be happening so that on the spot we can react. So what we call is we have a little war room, and then when things happen, what we did, for example, during the European Championships, that things happening and then immediately we go out. And what you see, what the nice thing about the world that we live in today, you can put that out into 80 to 200 markets, and then you can see, hey, this one is really going well in Brazil. You can put some more money behind it. This is not so going well for Spain. Let's take it down. So you can have a very flexible way of activating, and I think that's key, so that you show that you're relevant for the consumer and for the fan at that moment. Because if you just broadcast, I think that's almost outdated, and you do see that people react again on our activations during these moments, and I think that's so important as a brand. And I think what I wanted to say as well is that, if you come with a sponsor proposition to a brand, please think what you are giving to the brand as an experience. We don't need just another visibility somewhere in an e-game. No, we want to be sure that we can have a meaningful connection with the consumer, and that's quite often that lacks in, I would say, 95% of the sponsor propositions we get.
Thank you. Jorge, when I'm seeing LaLiga, I'm seeing a huge championship. one of the best in the world, and you build that also thanks to the partner you have and the partnership you build. I know now you are working with Web3 partnership, blockchain partnership, but before digging into the Web3, can you give me a bit more details on your fan experience that you are creating for the La Liga fans around the world, not necessarily in Spain, but really around the world with the media, the digital, the social media platform, etc.
Yeah, well, I would say that not only a competition. That's one of the things that how we see ourselves, and we have been building a much bigger ecosystem than just the two professional competitions that we are managing. But we are changing a little bit our narrative and trying to tell everybody what we're doing worldwide. So we consider that this huge ecosystem that we are managing in our case, it comes from the core, which is the love of the fans to their clubs, to how football is impacting in our society. There are different layers, and we are covering all of these layers. So at the end of the day, we've got many different ways of connecting with our fans, and we've got the core fans, and we've got some fans that are only connecting with La Liga because, well, it is part of the culture of or the world of football, how relevant it is in our society. So in these different layers, the third layer will be like the experiences and how the fans connect with La Liga. So you've got some people that they follow La Liga every single day, and we are trying to create different touch points with these hard fans. But we've got some of them that they only connect every week when they watch a game or something like that. So we need to create different touch points, and that's why our digital team have been working for the last 5 years in a really incredible way. So we are building, I don't know, we know that every fan that is playing our fantasy game, it is a way to connect with La Liga, not depending on the game, during the full week, because they are checking if a player is injured or not and how he's performing and these kind of things. You go to the market, you see new players, so they are connecting with us. Or if they jump into our social media, they are getting new content every single day. So we need them to connect very often, and not only because there's one game. So that's our strategy in terms of creating touch points. So obviously having partners that could help us to do this is really important for us. So that's why when we are looking for new partners, we've got the good side of not being a club, because it is something that when you are in a club, I know the circumstances are different. Perhaps when Hans said that, well, we need to create or to think in a long-term relationship. Well, it's not always easy. When you talk about a club, it is not easy to say. You need to think about the long term, because they've got some short-term needs that they need to cover. In our case, we are not in that situation. We can at least think in a medium term. So when we are looking for a new partner, we need to value many different things. So if it's a good brand or not, if it's a long-term partnership, if the activation plan is good for us. So we really appreciate the good things that a partner could offer to La Liga. And that's why, well, when we explore this blockchain hype that we had like a couple of seasons ago, that was difficult to understand what would happen. It could be similar to when betting companies landed into our space. But, well, I would say that betting was progressively. I mean, well, everything related to blockchain was crazy a couple of seasons ago. So we were not sure about how to jump into this space. So yeah, what we did finally was we understand that it is an opportunity in terms of revenue, but we see this space like an added value in terms of increasing this fan engagement. So, well, the fans will connect with us with the idea of being owner or something related with La Liga. So the kind of connection that you build with them is totally different. Obviously, they go much faster than we do. We are learning with them, and we've got different partners in this space that we are learning every single day. And well, probably that's one of the explanations how important it is fan engagement and what a partner can add to ourselves. And the best example I would say it is how we growing with our future title sponsor, which is eSports, that we announced 1 month ago. That we definitely believe that will boost our fan engagement having such a top partner like eSports.
Yeah, that's interesting to see that you are exploring different markets as esports, for example, but also blockchain. I know that you signed a deal with Taper Labs, the creator of NBA Top Shots. Fantastic application. What is interesting in the Web3 world, I think, and this is an open question for all of you, it's Web3 create content at the end, okay? Those content just create discussion. Those discussions engage the community, and this is the community who drive the revenue. And I have the impression now that in the Web3 space, we make shortcuts and we are saying NFTs revenue. But we forgot that in the middle, you have a fan engagement, you have a fan experience, you have community, you have discussion. You need to activate, and you say it. Activation is important. What are your thoughts, guys, about that space, the Web3 space, and the future, how we can impact club, brands, and federations? Go for it, choose. Esteve.
No one wants to talk about the future.
Hans is good for this one.
The problem I have a bit is that, yes, there's a future that we can see happening. The philosophy that I have on sponsorship is that you need to have reach. No, I think the reach is there. You need to have frequency. The frequency is there, but you need to make sure that your brand DNA is relevant on your activations. And quite often, the third one is a difficult one for us, because if it's just behind the screen, okay, how is that relevant in a beer moment? And while, especially in gaming, we can be more of a disturbance than to add value to the experience. So I think that's the crucial role that we're still trying to crack, is that, okay, how can we be relevant? You know, can we make, like, you know, we are an alcohol brand, so we don't want to be involved with lots of fighting and those kind of things. And if you look at all the e-gamings, those are the big ones. And if you then go to the esports, again, there's, okay, you can sponsor maybe, you know, a venue where people are watching it, but that's not the big league where we make the difference at this moment. So finding the right proposition for us is still, I would say, work in progress.
Thank you. Esteve, as a club, we discussed a bit metaverse before, and the fact that you can reach different fans from China or somewhere around the world. What can be your thought about metaverse, giving them access through a screen to content, and how you can do it, and what kind of partners help you to do that? Is that a software? Is that a hardware? How you can see the future with the digital and the fans? Oh, tough question.
Well, I think obviously there's a, first of all, we need to have a kind of understanding of what the rights situation is, right? And I guess some of those conversations need to take place with the broadcasters that have the rights, especially we're talking about match footage, right? And we know that every league and every rights agreement include the fact that then the rights holders will first sell them to a broadcaster, but then can use them under specific circumstances, right? And with that said, basically our approach is I mean, we pride ourselves from being extremely aggressive in terms of the content, the non-footage content that we use, and sometimes obviously it involves, or very often involves, the capacity to leverage the players' presence in that content, right? Then from a technology perspective, we just need to see how far we can go, right? And how close we can make it for someone that is in the other part of the world to feel like they are watching a game live in the stadium. In our case, what we are trying to do is to put our feet in kind of each of the different ongoing initiatives, right? I think LaLiga has been also very prolific in terms of embracing partners from the token space, NFTs, etc. And just like we have tried to do at City Football Group, we were the first Premier League club that did an agreement on tokens. We had our with Socios, our strategic partner. More recently, we signed a training kit partner on OKX, which is a crypto exchange platform as well. We also have an agreement with Sony to develop the Etihad on the metaverse, right? How will it look like in 1, 2, 3 years time? How we will monetize it? You know, we also did a first of a kind experience by launching our third kit together with Puma in Roblox at Roblox as well. But if you tell me how is it going to look like in 5 years' time, I wish I would have the answer, right? But our strategy is like, let's try to make sure that we participate in every space. If there's a new social media that is gaining momentum, we also want to be there. And in my role, always in our mind to see how we can integrate partners in those activities.
Thank you, Esteve. Jorge, you are, I think, at LaLiga really advanced, and this is what you said about Web3. Can you telling us a bit more about your Web3 experience at LaLiga, how it's working, what is your plan, where you want to go with blockchain, etc.?
Yeah, well, we started 2 seasons ago exploring this. Well, no, we started 4 years ago, which it was crazy at that time, because first conversations with Dapper Labs were like 4 years ago, which is crazy, through our US office. And we have been exploring that. Again, not true that obviously we are the commercial and marketing area, so we are always exploring these new sources of revenue. But we understood that this was different. It was not only taking the money and run, and with a level of uncertainty, because we saw many new companies without a product itself, just with an idea. So it was challenging for us to say what's the right partner in this space. In some cases, it was not clear even the level of exclusivity. So in some cases was like all blockchain or NFTs in general. And we were not sure, not even with the rights, as Esteve said, well, we need to be sure that what we are offering is something that we can offer. So we created a specific team in LaLiga with some people from the legal department, some people from the digital department, and the commercial and marketing department in order to explore different alternatives. We finally decided to go for different partners in different verticals, and they were demonstrating that they were the experts and the leaders in every single vertical. So that's why we finally signed with Sorare for the NFTs in a fantasy game space, which is something that is already in place. They had the game working before having LaLiga. So, well, you can prove that it's working and it's a real model when you're signing with them. They were leading this specific vertical. The same with Dapper Labs. Well, the case of NBA Top Sauce was a success case, but they also had CryptoKitties before. So, well, it was not only thinking about, well, the future sounds really good, already present, it is good enough. So we want to learn with them. So that's something that we have been doing, and well, the experience is really good so far. Again, not only because it is an important revenue for us, it is also because, well, it's not easy as a property to learn in this space every single day, because, well, the speed is crazy. So having the top partners and the right partners in every every vertical can help you in strategic decisions for the future. Because, well, we don't know how it's going to evolve, but we are sure that we need to keep growing and learning with our partners.
Thank you. It's interesting to see the structuration, the vertical structuration you bring to the Web3 to say, okay, you will have that fantasy game NFT, you will have that highlight NFT, you will have that token, etc. And I want to jump on you, and because this is a discussion we had before together around NFTs and Web3. one of the vertical or horizontal, if you have to cut it, it's the utility you can bring to the content. What is your thought about utility and the future of engagement?
But my personal view is that I don't think that NFTs on itself have a future. My view is that the NFTs have to have an experience. And I think a brand like Heineken wants to give fan experience, which are quite exclusive. We always like to say that we want to give wow experience where people talk about. Well, having these partnership with great properties, I do think that we can work on NFTs that can give you access to unique content, and that can be something that we need to crack around the world. Having said that, is what is interesting as a global brand is that you need to be quick with these kind of things as well. And to translate that, and you can say, well, Spanish is easy. Well, I can tell you it's not, because the Argentinian Spanish is different from the Chilean Spanish. So you need to make sure that you are, because if you make one mistake in one country, it burns your brand quite quickly as well. But the challenge is there. I think we're more and more on top of that, and we're learning every day. And even the Portuguese in Mozambique is different than the Portuguese in Brazil than in Portugal. So yes, as a global brand, you need to make sure that you talk the local language well, but I do believe that you need to add, a world-class experience to that.
I will jump off a bit of the Web3 space, because I know you guys, you are not specialists and I don't want to bother you more about that, but we explore a lot of opportunities around fan experience, partnership, etc. I want to discuss a bit the risk and the future of partnership. Esteve, can you give me a bit of, if you have to wrap up your mind in one thought about what can be the future risk of partnership for a club, what can it be? Oh.
In this space in particular?
Yeah, in this space.
Well, I guess it's probably the fear of missing out, right? Because you read articles, it's big, you see the valuation of these companies, and then you have the opportunity to sign a sponsorship contract, and you start wondering, how long should the contract be, right?
Absolutely.
Is it the right fee? Because if I do a deal which is too short and if it collapses, maybe I don't capitalize on it, or the other way around, right? I end up trying to secure a long-term deal and I realize I didn't ask for enough money. So this would be one of the challenges when you sit in front of the contract, because it's so much of a new world, it's changing so much that you have this fear of missing out and making sure you get it right. The other challenge would be the right definition of each category, right? So because I still don't get how to properly segment it, right? In a way that you don't want to realize that you think you've done an amazing deal 2 years ago, and then another opportunity comes in, and you realize that it's blocked because you gave too much of an exclusivity, or you were not concrete enough on the definition of the category that you were giving away to that partner, right? And that's difficult, that's challenging. It involves a lot of lawyers that have to have a look, and also when you play as a global property, as Hans was saying, it's even more challenging because the legislation is different across countries, right? And what's legal in one place might not be legal in another place, right? So in our case, we've been able to find a way, and obviously we did our due diligence when we did our first NFTs and tokens contracts 2 years ago, because we were first of a kind in the Premier League, but then it was feeling like everyone was looking at each other, who goes first, right?
Yeah.
And we decided to go first, and then many other clubs followed. But we've been having our first steps, and so far we feel we got it right.
Thank you, Esteve. So just to conclude, what I'm seeing, it's as a federation, as a brand, or as a club, organization, because you have different clubs, but you're all brands, and you are all working in the same way to increase awareness, to increase fan engagement, and to create a new experience. And I think it's really interesting. Gentlemen, I want to thank you, all of you, for your time and for this panel. Thanks a lot.
And there you have them. Jorge, Esteve, and Hans delivering an amazing masterclass on the partnerships model of the future for football clubs. Once again, feel free to reach out across social and let us know your feedback. Make sure you subscribe, rate the podcast on the platform of your choice, and follow along as we bring you closer to the people and brands that are shaping the future of the football industry. Nothing else from my side. We look forward to seeing you back on the next episode of the World Football Summit podcast. Until then, have a great rest of your day.